Hello, this is Pamela with Pamela's Portrayals, and today we are going to be recreating this daisy painting that I did on a smaller scale, just so I can show you how I got those black outlines. This is a pretty simple painting. I just drew well, for the original painting for this one, I didn't draw any lines, but I'll show you how you can draw some simple lines to get this look. To begin with, I painted a canvas. This is a thicker canvas, and I painted it with a Payne's gray. We're using some different lighting because the Payne's gray that I used was Master's Touch, and it's got a high sheen to it. The other painting I was using was the Liquitex, and it did not have a sheen like this on it. So we're using some different lighting. I hope it works out. So I painted all of this with the Payne's gray, and then once that dried, I just took some chalk and I just drew a real simple little diagram on it. Now what we're going to be doing, these white lines are actually going to be the black lines that show up on the other painting. And what we'll do is, like, because this is a acrylic paint and a shiny surface, once we do this and put the paint like down here and around it, well, you'll see here in a little bit, I'm going to go around these lines. I'm not going to paint up to the lines or cover them up. I'm going to leave them exposed, and then once we have all the paint on and have it dried, then we go back with it like a wet paper towel or wet rag and wipe all of this chalk off. So probably the best way to explain it is to just go ahead and do it. Now we use 6 colors on the original painting. I used titanium white, I used parchment, this is aqua, gray, ochre, and a light green. I'm going to be using some smaller brushes because this is actually a 6x6 canvas. It looks larger perhaps to you, but it is a small canvas, so we're going to have to use smaller brushes. And I'm going to use, let's see, probably these two will be pretty popular. I'm also going to use this small filbert. These are 2 angle brushes. These are also synthetic brushes. I'm going to be using this small filbert for the petals, and I've got some other ones that I might use. I've got some of these. Here's a round, a flat, and another round. But to begin with, I think we're just going to use these 3. I might go ahead, this is a larger flat brush, and I think I will go ahead and use it to do this bottom part. It'll just make it really quicker. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my bottom part, and I'm going to use the larger, let me see if you can see that, the larger flat brush. And I'm going to get some gray, and I always like to pull my paint out in the middle. Now if you want, you could add water to your brush first. I've already got my water and my paper towel set up, but I don't usually start that way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go right up to that line, and I'm going to put some paint on. Now I'm doing this streaky. I don't want it to be smooth, so you can see where I've left some black down here that just shows through the paint. And I'm going to come right up here. I'm going to smooth that off. Then I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint these sides also. And again, if you don't get all the paint on there, that's fine. I'm not looking for total coverage. And then we'll go over here. And then the bottom. And because this is so small, I'm just holding it in my hand. Or sitting it on the table. I'm going to get some more gray paint. I'm going to look at that. That looks like maybe the line's not totally straight right here. So, I mean, you don't have to have the line straight, but I just kind of going to touch that up a little bit. Have my table in this corner. I want that corner sharper, so I'm just going to kind of touch that up. And I think we're done with the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off. Sorry for that noise. Okay, I think I might even, for this area, I might go ahead and use my big brush. So for this one, I'm going to get the parchment, which is kind of like a off-white. And I'm just going to come in, and I'm just going to pull that around like so. I'm kind of giving it a little bit of a little rounding up. Instead of going straight across, I'm kind of just going up a little bit there. And I like that. Now this area back here we'll get later. I'm going to get just a little bit more in this corner because this is not too much up there. So there. Maybe pull that out just a little bit. I'm going to clean my brush off again. And now I'm going to be going for the smaller brushes. I'm going to get my filbert brush because I'm going to take and start filling in the white petals. So, because we're going to have to go over this possibly more than once. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that down like that. And if you'll notice, as I pull that down, I'm kind of turning it a little bit just to give me that little smaller area there. Filberts are real nice to make petals with because the tip is rounded and you can turn it to get that little sharper edge there. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm pulling down, I'm lifting up, and then just pulling that down. I'm going to do the same thing here. You might need to turn it. I'm just trying to be careful that I don't touch this bottom part because it's wet. But you can turn it. Like I said, with this being a smaller canvas, you can just lay it on the table instead of putting it on the easel. This would be a little difficult to paint on the easel, I think. And get some more white. Now I'm going to try not to go all the way to the edge because I want to be able to have a line around there and some color. Now you'll notice my petals don't all look the same. I didn't want them, this isn't an accurate, realistic painting. This is just kind of a little abstract, fun painting. And I'm going to turn it around the other way so I can get these petals. Notice how I turn that up. this is a little petal there. I lift it and turn it. I hope you can see that well. These are just really fun paintings. I've just had such a good time with painting these. I like it because it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see, I've got one more little petal right there. Turn that around so I get it at a good angle. Okay, so you see how I left the white lines out there surrounding each petal. Now I'm cleaning my brush, and I'm going to go ahead and just take, I don't know if I want to use this one. I'm going to go ahead and use the filbert, and I'm going to fill in these little circles. This is the center, and just going to kind of make them like that. There you go. Now I'm going to use this smaller angle brush, and I'm going to put in the leaves. Now this painting is turning out looking like I may not have to put a lot of coats on it of paint, but we'll see. So this one is the green, and I'm going to just put that in there. I think I might have to come back with the green and put in some more colors, or put some more paint on it, I mean. And let's see, if you want to make a leaf, if you have an angle brush, I don't know if you just saw what I just did, but if you've got an angle brush, you can press down as long as you want to hold it so that the angle, the longest part is up here at the top where your finger is. But you can press down and pull, and that will leave just a really nice leaf. But now this is a little bigger, so I've got to kind of fill it in. I'm going to let this dry. Actually, I'm going to blow dry it before I go back. I do see some spots of the white that I might want to go in and darken up a little bit. Now we're going to come down here where I'm going to paint the back side of this. So I'm going to need to have black down here and black up there. So I'm actually, this time, I'm going to go right over with the parchment color. I'm going to go right over the line. That way I'll have black on top and bottom. So I'm just going to put a little bit here, a little bit there, and then I'm going to turn so I've got the tip facing downward. I'm going to come up like that and there. So, and I think I'm going to just go ahead and make this a little more noticeable, a little darker up here at the top. Just so we can kind of see that outline. I think I'm going to actually go all the way up to, I'm going to just paint over that right there too. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to go back. I think I am just going to take take this and just kind of come along this side over here and make it a little bit darker. Still kind of coming up along the side there. Now, I really want to put more green where these petals are, but I have to have it dry first because otherwise it will just smear around. So I'm going to step away for a moment and dry this, and then I will be back. Alright, I've dried this, and there are some areas where I want to, you know, add a second coat of paint. So I'm going to take my filbert brush, and I'm going to go back with the white and just kind of darken up some of those petals, just so I don't see so much of the Payne's Gray showing through. Now, you don't have to do this. You may like the look of it kind of like down here where the black or the Payne's Gray is showing through the parchment. And you may like that look, and you may not want to add more paint to the leaves or to the petals, but I'm going to just add another coat, not to the whole thing, but at least some of it. You know, we can just, like, maybe you just want to add it to the top of the petal, or maybe you want to add it to the entire petal. And I'm going to need to turn this around. It's a little easier to turn around this time because it's dry and I can touch the paint. I don't normally work with the smaller canvases, but I'm thinking this is really going quickly, and it might be a good way for me to show you guys how to do these paintings and it not be so long, and you could actually watch the entire painting. So that may be what I start doing. Well, I would like you to leave me a note if you like the smaller paintings because it goes quicker. Always stretching myself to try to help you guys enjoy what you're doing and be able to see how we do it. Painting just brings me such joy, and I just want to share it with all of you. Okay. And this is like I said, you can't, it's really hard to mess this up because it doesn't have to look like, you know, a real flower, although these certainly, I think anybody could tell that they are real flowers. Okay, just going to finish this up. I don't know if you can tell that there's less black showing, or I keep calling it black, Payne's Gray showing through the background. Some of you may wonder, why didn't I use black instead of the Payne's Gray? Payne's Gray can have, or I'm sorry, black can sometimes have a hard look about it. The Payne's Gray almost looks black, but it's got just a little bit of a tint of blue, which makes it kind of like a really dark blue-gray, almost black. And I just happen to like that look. If you wanted to use black, you could certainly do that. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush off. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but see, I've got some thicker parts. You can see the lines. Now, if you don't like those lines, you can just go back with a clean brush and smooth them off. I kind of liked the lines, but I just want to show you how you can kind of smooth those out. You don't have to, don't need to. depending on the look you're going for. I've left some of them and I've smoothed some others out. Okay, now I'm going to use the angle brush, the small angle brush, and I'm going to get some more of the green. And I'm just going to go over some of these leaves. Now, if you're wondering why on some things we need to go over it more than once, it's because a lot of the paints in the acrylic line are semi-transparent or transparent. So that just means you've got to put more coats of the paint on to make it to where you can't see through it. Now, like I said, if you were somebody who you wanted to be able to see through it, if you like that look, and as you paint this, you'll be able to tell what I'm talking about. It's just like this where you can see the background color through the paint. The gray, even though the gray is more opaque, you can still see a little bit of the black. But like this green and the white, a lot of your lighter colors, they're just pretty transparent. Okay, I think I've got that the way I want it. Now at this point you can go and dry this. I'd probably suggest drying this. Okay, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, I mean, these look okay, but I'm wondering, should I put a little leaf right here? And I think I'm going to do it. Now that means I'm going to paint over my line. Let's see. I would have to show you guys how to touch that up if I did it. So I'm not going to do it. That would just make this painting more complicated. So let's not do that. Okay, so now I'm going to use a little bit larger angle brush, and we're going to start putting in the aqua color. If you wanted, and you're like, I like the black background, you could certainly leave it like that. But I'm going to go ahead and put in the aqua. Now when I do that, I'm going to come right up to that line, and I'm going to pull this like right over here. And the only time I'm really being careful is when I go up next to a line. And then I'm going to go in and I'm just going to pull this out. I want that straight, just like I said, right around things that it, you can tell that it's not straight, like this container or vase or vase or however you'd like to say it. Now I'm going to have to go along this bottom here, and I'm just going to make a straight line, and then I'm going to pull up. Do you see how that's already changing the way this looks? I mean, I already like it. Now, when we get into the center of these flowers, we're going to have to use the smaller angle brush, and I'm going to use this one kind of with my brush standing up instead of laying flat. And I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to use the tip. And I'm going to come up here. And again, I don't have to cover everything. I am going to get a little closer here. I'm going to round that corner a little bit. And I may not want this line that thick, so I may come down here and get a little closer to the chalk line. And then we're going to come over here. This is actually the hardest part of the painting. The rest of it is really simple. Now this one, I want the background to show through, so I'm not going to try to cover up all of it. And again, I'm going to hold this up. I'm not laying my brush flat. And I'm going to come around here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, you see where I messed up right here, and I'll show you how we can fix that. As a matter of fact, if I'm going to show you how I fix that, I might just go ahead and add that other leaf, since I'll have to do the same thing. So I'm coming in and just kind of outlining those petals. I hope I'm not making you sick by turning this around so much. It's not bothering me, but it may not look as good on your computer screen. So I'm going to go around here. So I'm just kind of doing just some little touch-up work. I'm not painting big swatches of anything. I'm just kind of going in lightly and painting around these. Now, if you want, when you're done, you can go back and darken up some of the areas if you think they're too light or you don't like the way that you can see through the paint. Now I have not painted my sides yet, so since this bottom is dry, I can move this around and touch it without worrying about if I'm going to get it all over me. Let's see. I'm going to separate that just a little bit there. Now, if you don't like to do so much work on the inside, you could just put one, you could make this vase smaller and just put one flower, and then that would make it a lot easier to go in and do this part. And like I said, this is the hardest part of it, but you're going to see how by doing this, how we're going to make the stems pop out. And I don't want to go all the way up to that because I've got to leave my Payne's gray in between each item. And sometimes I'm using the point of my angle brush, and sometimes I'm using it just straight up and down. The smaller areas I'm using the point, and then the longer areas I'm just using it straight up and down. And I think before I go any further, I think I'm going to just stop for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add that little leaf that I wanted to add. So I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to come and get this green. And this is kind of like a lime green that I'm using, the color that I'm using. And I'm just going to put another little leaf right there. Let me touch up these a little bit. Make them a little bit. The more paint that I put on them, the brighter the color will be. This is a pretty thick, this one right, the new one that I put on is a pretty thick amount of paint, so it's looking brighter than the other one. I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to come back and finish up the aqua color. Now I'm getting to where it's getting really tight in there, so I might want to switch to my smaller angle brush. I'm going to clean this one off because I do think I want to switch now. So you can see this one's much smaller, so it'll let me get into those smaller areas better, particularly there in the middle. So I'm just going to come right along here, and again, I'm using some areas, I'm using the tip. In some areas, I'm just holding it up straight. And we do not want to paint over the chalk lines, because those are going to be our stems and the outline of our leaves as well as our vase and everything. Okay, so I'm going to finish up, and while I'm finishing up with this, I'm looking and I'm thinking, you know, I drew these petals really big, and they're in a little vase or vase, however you want to say it again. And maybe I should make this bigger, but you're thinking, oh my goodness, we've already painted, you know. The nice thing about acrylics, that if I chose, I could actually make this just a little bit longer, because I can paint right over the top of the acrylic paint once it's dry. Alright, I'm going to put that in there. Let's put a little bit right there. We're going to fill this in right here. And this is just some, you know, fine detail work. Now, if you were doing a larger painting, it would not be as stressful maybe if you're having, you know, if you were doing a small painting. You would have more room to paint this in, because you do have to kind of use smaller brushes here, and you could use larger brushes, but I think, like I said, I think that I may start using the smaller paintings simply so I can get them done quicker for you, but you can see the entire process instead of having to, you know, fast forward through it or something like that. Alright, so here we're going to I'm trying to leave the area that is the Payne's gray, I'm trying to leave it close to the same size all around all the different objects. It doesn't have to be, but that's kind of like what I'm thinking in my head that I want. I've just got a little bit more to do here. Do you see how when I put those in that it just really kind of helps make it pop? Make those petals stand out? This is actually kind of like a negative painting technique that that I really like. I don't usually use it in class, but I think for this painting, I think it's simple enough that it's going to look really good. Alright, so I'm going to look over this now and see if there's any place maybe that I want to darken up, or maybe fill in some extra spots. I'm thinking though it looks pretty good the way it is. So I'm going to stop with the front here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my larger brush, and I'm going to take the aqua, and now we're just going to go ahead and do the sides. And to do that, I'm just going to kind of put that on. It does not have, when I get down here, I want to be a little careful because I want that to come around the corner. Now, the canvas that I'm using is a thicker canvas than like student grade canvas. This is called a gallery wrapped canvas. They're a little more expensive than like your student grade. You don't have to get them. I just like these because they're really nice to put up on a shelf or up on your wall or something. You don't have to, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit that. So just going to go ahead, and this does not have, just put it on however you want. Just go ahead and bring it up around the corner there, or that edge. And the only place that you really need to be worried about the amount of paint or how you're getting your paint on is where it meets the gray here on the side. And I do want that to be more of a straight line, so, and maybe not so thick of it. Whoops, went down. Okay. I'm sorry, I got a light here that I'm hitting. That's the noise you're hearing. Okay. So see, it's just kind of, doesn't have to be solid or anything like that. I'm going to go up this corner's, I'll put just a little bit more up in that corner. There. Okay, I'm going to clean this brush. Now, as I talked to you before, there's some areas where I just got too close to the white and I didn't leave enough of my Payne's gray. And also down here, I'm thinking, do I want to make that, a little longer? It wouldn't be much longer, this area. I might just leave it and just show you up here what I'm going to do. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and dry all this because it has to be really, really dry, because what I'm going to do is come back and show you the lines that are left where this chalk was and how we're going to wash that off. Alright, I've used the blow dryer and I've dried my painting. You can touch it just to make sure, because you don't want to go over this with something wet if it's still, you can see the chalk on my hands here. Alright, so now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can take your brush, a damp brush, and kind of take that off, but I don't like getting chalk in my brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and you can take any kind of cloth that doesn't have lint on it. I'm going to use this paper towel, and I'm going to get some clean water, and I'm going to just start wiping that off. Do you see that? See that nice line? Let's do it right around here. Oh, look at that. Now to me, that is just cool. And we're going to go up here and we're going to take it off. And I'm going to go around each petal. Let me see if you can see the difference in that. You see the difference in what this looks like and what this looks like that still has the chalk on it. So we're just going to go ahead and go around the petals. And this will also help you see any areas that perhaps you couldn't see before. Maybe the chalk was obscuring it. But any areas that you might want to do something different on. So I'm looking here, and doing these small paintings was a little more difficult for me because I'm used to working in larger frames. I don't normally do, like I said, small ones. Okay, so I'm looking at this. It looks pretty good, but I'm seeing some areas that I would like to touch up. Now, if your paint, your background paint is touching your petals, you may be like, I don't care, it looks fine to me. But over here, I've got some white that's been covered up by the background. So I'm just going to show you ways. And like here, I didn't go ahead and connect that area. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to touch up a couple little areas. I'm going to come here where this white has the aqua on the background. I'm going to touch that up. I don't think there's any other white areas that I want to touch up. I'm using the tip of my angle brush, and I see this over here, and I'm going to get some of the, just a little bit on the tip of my brush, just a little bit, and I'm sorry if that's blurry. And I'm just going to kind of come around like this and just kind of connect that a little bit. And I'm thinking, let's see, this here I can still see a little bit of the chalk on it. Let's take that off. And as I'm looking around though, I see some of the areas. I like the black to be all the way around. You don't have to have it. And like down here, I'm going to use again the tip of my small angle brush, and I'm just going to come in here and put that right there like that. Kind of give it more definition. And I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to sharpen this edge right here. And again, I'm using the tip of my brush. I'm going to come over here and fill that in a little bit. And like I said, you don't have to have them all the same amount of black around the edges. But I kind of like mine to be really close. You know, you can't make sure they're all perfect, but some edges, like here I've got some, instead of going around like that, that's kind of got more of an angle, but I'm going to leave that. And I'm looking at it, and I think this area here, this is obviously thicker than this, and so I've got to decide, do I want to go and, you know, come a little closer to the black here and make it more even. I've also got some gray here that's gotten up into the black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small round brush, and I've got some of the Payne's gray here. And what I'm going to do first is with this small brush, I'm just going to go around areas that maybe I feel like over here where the paint touched each other, and I'm just going to kind of go around and touch that up so my outline goes all the way around my petal. And there may be a couple of places I want to do that at. I want to have more separation between these two. And like I said, this is something, you don't have to do this. You can just leave it. They don't have to be perfect. And here I got some of the background color on that stem. And I'm looking, I think I'm going to put a little bit of black right here, or Payne's gray. And maybe right here. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Oh, I see another spot that I want to put some more Payne's gray in. Like right along here. I'm also seeing some spots where I want to put more of the background color in the aqua. So I think here I want to put more, just kind of outline that a little better. And maybe have these separated instead of joined together. Over here, I'm going to add just a little bit. I'm not going to totally separate them, but I'm going to put, just so that you can see that there is. Oh, let's see. I think right here, I'm going to put a little bit right there. Just look at just that little bit, how that defines that leaf more. And I'm going to come down a little bit here. And perhaps this, I'm going to fill this area in a little more and make that stand out a little better. Now the other thing I'm going to do, since I added this little leaf in the vase or the vase, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more Payne's gray because he's not outlined real well. So I don't want that touching the beige area, so, or the parchment. And I think I am going to I don't think I need to outline that. Oh, I see where my black is that I needed it. I thought I saw a spot and then I wasn't sure. If you're having trouble seeing where you need something to change, that maybe you don't like something but you can't tell what it is, hold this up in front of a mirror. And anything that you don't like will really stand out for you. I'm going to go ahead and do this. And see, this was actually, putting all this background in was the hardest part. But if you had, a larger canvas, it wouldn't be as difficult because you don't have to have these little tiny areas. I think I'm going to go back with some of my aqua again. I want to make this a little sharper. And do I have any place else I want to put that? I'm looking at it and I'm thinking I need to add maybe some more Payne's gray over here. I've got these over here have some really strong black areas, and then here we don't really have that many strong black areas, so I'm going to add just a little bit more here on this side. And maybe I will separate these a little bit more. And I'm just because I want to, I'm just going to add a little bit of this center color here. Just going to kind of darken that up a little bit, make this a little bit more round. Again, you don't have to and at this point I'm really just playing with it because you're done. You're done. I'm just adding some touch-ups to it where I think maybe I want to change something, but oh, one more. It's so hard to know when to stop. I've read some different articles about how can you tell when it's time to stop, and I haven't gotten anything real definitive. It's just a matter of choice. I'm just going to make this line here. I'm going to come down a little bit more. I'm going to put, since I put that leaf in, I wasn't thinking about how I need to add a little bit of the pink color right here in the middle. There. Now, I am done. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll try it. If you want to start with something small and work your way up, you can do that. But if it was me, I would start with a larger canvas, and then you can work your way to doing it in the small ones. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you come back and join us again.